Thanks for reminding me.
Well, we can see that Jackson had a bit of a free will and kind of did it as he pleased. I'm sure his fiery temperament caused him a lot of problems in office based on his actions as a general. Can you elaborate on that?
It definitely caused a lot of conflicts between him and others. Part of the reason is, like you were saying, he felt strongly about many things and often did as he pleased. When someone does not meet eye to eye on his views and opposes him, he immediately sees them as an enemy. It was very, you're either with more or against me sort of mindset. He deeply valued loyalty.
I suppose we could look more into that during his presidency. Can you start from the very beginning of his political career?
Before we start off, I just have to say I love Jackson a lot, so I'm sorry if I sound a little biased. But oh yes, I got to talk about the dumb election of 1824. He totally should have won that election, as he won the popular vote, but not the majority, as there were 4 candidates. As a result, the decision for who would have been the next president was made by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Henry Clay. God, I hate that man. Anyway, he cut a deal with Jackson's main opponent, John Quincy Adams, because neither of them liked Jackson at all.
A deal? What do you mean?
Henry Clay guaranteed John Adams a spot as president if he could appoint him as Secretary of State. Obviously, Adams took the deal because who would pass up such an easy victory like that, right? Many people, especially Jackson supporters, call that a corrupt bargain. And I definitely agree with that because that was some bull.
Mr. Adams, how would you like to be the next president of the United States?
How so?
Well, that's easy. You just make me the Secretary of State. And it's a deal.
Sounds easy. Deal.
Mr. Clay, what? That's preposterous. I have a feeling that you're going to use power for your own self-interest rather than the interests of the Union. Another is that many of the things you believe in are unconstitutional, such as the item of slavery. You wish to take away my constitutional right to own slavery and the rest of the South.
Mr. Jackson, you know exactly how I feel about you. Besides, it's a done deal.
So, when did Jackson finally become president?
Literally, the next election, a corrupt bargain and an increasingly democratic culture led to Jackson winning the election of 1828 by a big margin, leaving Andrew Jackson the winner of the battle between himself, John Quincy Adams, and Henry Clay. Unfortunately, his wife Rachel died during this time, adding another layer of sadness to this man.
I'm sure the death of his wife added on to his fiery attitude. But I've heard he was a very passionate man during his presidency. Can you explain the nullification crisis? As I've heard a lot about that with him.
Ah yes, it all started because of tariffs placed on imports to reduce the competition of foreign manufacturers with American manufacturers. The South, who relied heavily on foreign imports, saw this as unfair. They accused the government of helping the North at the expense of the South and threatened to secede from the Union.
Oh wow, I don't think that would go well for the South, or specifically South Carolina, right?
Jackson saw this as a threat to national unity and believed they were disgracing the founding fathers, and rightfully so. Since the state is threatening to secede, Jackson was to go to South Carolina later and threatened to hang the first person he saw, which was definitely one of his coolest moments in my opinion.
How could you bring dishonor to your forefathers who founded this country? Such disgrace. If you continue this nonsense, I'll personally come down there and hang the first man I see.
There are 2 major events later in his presidency, the Indian removal and the bank crisis. We should probably go over them in chronological order, so we will start with the Indian removal.
Oh, this is the one where the Indians were forced to migrate to the West, right?
Well, you are partially correct. Any Indians who did not want to assimilate into the white culture were forced to migrate. However, when whites needed more land later, certain states were pressured to move them, but they couldn't. Only the U.S. government could. As a result, Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, allowing the forced removal to happen, which resulted in the Trail of Tears. The Supreme Court said this wasn't right, but being Jackson, he did it anyways.
Oh wow, he's definitely a character sometimes, I guess.
Definitely. But next we have the bank crisis. It was time to renew the National Bank, an idea put forth by Hamilton, which most higher class men agreed upon. But not Jackson. He killed the bank, believing it only benefited the rich businessmen who want to start new industries and not the common man, thus assuming that the bankers would manipulate the money given to them, making it seem more risky to the lower class. He proposed that the money in the National Bank should be redistributed to state banks.
How did that come out?
One of the things that caused more drama was the fact that Jackson vetoed the bill. It was greenlit by stages of the government, but when the time came for him to give the final say, he flat out vetoed it. Many questioned how fair this was for a president to have this much power, and we still wonder that today as well.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that either. He was very dedicated in his head and couldn't really be stopped, right?
His image as the common man definitely helped with his popularity. I wouldn't be wrong if I said he was willing to die for them. God, I love this man.
Well, I'm sure there are very other interesting and other important aspects of his life, but I think if we kept talking, we'd be here until next year.
I'll gladly talk about him if you want.
No, that won't be necessary. I think we're running out of time, so thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure.